Hello, and a very warm welcome to a workshop in conjunction with the book Women Leading the Way. My name is Irina Castellano, and I'm really fortunate to be in this book together with some great co-authors, and I'm very grateful to Peace and Katie for putting it all together. Now, my chapter is called Everything in Life Happens for a Reason, and I truly, truly believe that. Because even though my life has not just been hunky-dory and all positive, I have always learned my lessons through what has happened. And I also believe that by things happening to us that are maybe not that great, we're actually becoming more and more compassionate towards other people who might be going through something quite similar. Now, in the book, it starts off by me talking about my time as an expat child. So my father used to travel quite a bit and also move countries. So we used to move with him, and I grew up in different countries, had to go to school in different countries, had to learn different languages. And I think it has really shown me why I would like to now work with children, because I have seen so much over the years. And when I was 15 and living in the US, I read a book from Dave Pelzer called A Child Called It, and that had a profound effect, because I always knew that I had a privileged childhood being in an expert community, but to actually hear that a biological mother was abusing her child and for him to be singled out, that just really affected me. And I thought one day I would like to help children like that, because then also I read about fostering, which I had never heard about. So I wanted to one day foster children, always wanted my own kids, and I definitely thought of maybe even adopting a child later on. So fast forward, I started off after school working in hospitality, and in the book it describes a bit on how I then also ended up in aviation, and that was not an easy one. Again, there were hurdles, and I got rejected. I did not get the job that I wanted initially. But again, everything happens for a reason. And that's how I then ended up in the Middle East, working for Emirates Airlines. And it's the best thing that could have happened to me. It was an amazing experience. So it touches on that in the book quite a bit. And then it goes on to where I am now, and how when I found my husband, we actually then, I moved here because he's Australian. And after a little while, he also got posted to Singapore and to China. And it talks about our journey on starting our family in the unconventional way. Because we first of all started fostering while we were still here in Australia. And he did it to please me, that's for sure. It wasn't something that he had planned. He always thought we would just have our own kids. So we actually started fostering, and then we moved to Singapore for his work. And from there, we actually adopted a child that was also in care, not in care with us, but who needed a home, a permanent home. And because Singapore is so efficient, it got, approved within a year, and we could adopt her. We were one of the first Caucasians adopting a Singaporean child. And then we had our biological child in Singapore as well, which wasn't all easy because it was through IVF. And then we also had a miscarriage. We also had a stillborn. And then we moved back to Australia and we continued to foster. And then we had a little girl in our care who also needed a permanent home. She came for 3-4 months, but then it was decided that she couldn't be reunited with birth family, and we adopted her as well. So one of the reasons I would love to talk about fostering and adoption in Australia, because pretty much every country that offers fostering needs foster carers. And if you were expecting some slides, there are no slides. I'm just going to talk from the heart and tell you everything I know in a nutshell in a few minutes that I've got, to just raise awareness to the desperate need of foster carers pretty much all over the world. And here in Australia, for those of you who are not from Australia, we have 26 million inhabitants in Australia. And just in New South Wales, where I'm from, we have 8 million. And I just find it mind-blowing that we cannot find the amount of homes that we need at any given time in Australia. Because I know that there are families out there who maybe have only one child and would like to have more, that there are couples out there who have been trying IVF, were unsuccessful, and then think, well, that's it. There are so many people, even singles or people from the same-sex community or LGBTQA++ community. There are so many that would like to create families, and I just cannot comprehend that we don't find enough carers out there. Because it has gotten, I've been doing this now with my family for 23 years. We've had more than roughly about 75 kids come through our home. And I only know that because when we hit the 20-year mark, our support caseworker actually counted the children we had in our care. Otherwise, you wouldn't really even know. And among these kids, a lot of them could be reunited, but of course, not all of them. And this is where I'm coming from now, because I don't want people to go into fostering per se to, create their own families. And then again, it is a way to do that, because unfortunately not all kids can be reunited with birth family. But fostering foremost is about giving birth family a break, helping them. And what you're doing in the meantime is you're showing a child that you can be trusted, that humans can be trusted, that you are a solid relationship builder, because, all the hurt, all the trauma that these kids have experienced has happened through relationships. And only through relationships these kids can heal. And fostering is one of these ways to show these kids that they can heal, that they are worthy of your time, that they are actually able to do a lot more things than they think they can do when they come into your care. So I just want to raise awareness, because especially in those 23 years that we have been fostering, there were many, many times when we at least didn't have a problem finding carers for kids under 5, but now we do. And these kids then, when we don't have enough homes, they actually go to motel rooms. So when I first told my children about that, they said, oh, hotel, they go to hotels with, pool and all of that, because that's what they're used to with us. And I was like, no, these are motel rooms, and these are places where, they're of course being supervised, but it's not an ideal setting. These children should be in family settings. They should sit at a dinner table. They should be part of a family in order to heal. And this is why I have decided to speak up, speak out, and hopefully through a book chapter and through this workshop, I can raise awareness that if you know a sister-in-law, somebody, a friend that says, hey, I would love to have kids in my home, and they don't know how, then maybe fostering could be an option. And like I said, now in New South Wales, at least, not in all states and not in all territories in Australia. And of course, it's different in each country. But we now work much closer with the adoption agencies or the adoption departments, so that if a child is in a home and the placement is going well, and this child cannot be reunited, then why would we remove this child again to put it then in an adoptive family? So we are trying to have fostering and adoption work much closer together and to support one another, so that there is no need for these kids to be uprooted again. Because let's face it, when they are removed from everything they have ever known, and yes, maybe there were some not so great things, but still it was everything they have ever known. So you're immediately putting these kids through grief and loss about what they have lost, whatever it might have been, even a pet, a teacher at the school, a coach from soccer, whatever it might be that they have now lost, besides the birth family. And you don't want to uproot them every single time just because, oops, this is now fostering, and oh, over there is adoption. Why would you do that? So we really think that things have been improved in many ways, and we would like for that to continue. Personally, I think we should be also working together with IVF clinics, for example, where couples that have been unsuccessful then, can maybe look into fostering or adoption to actually see if that could be a pathway to create a family. Because if at least you are helping a child in need, and if that child gets reunited, well, that's a success story. But if you stick around long enough, I mean, in our 23 years, there would have been many more kids that we could have had up for adoption. But, we've always wanted 3 children, and we're happy to help and guide these kids until a more permanent home can be found. But a lot of people really don't know that there are so many. And I mean, there are sibling groups of 5, 7, 8, 11. So unfortunately, if you say you have 2 rooms, let's put bunk beds and you can have 4 kids. So it is literally that we are desperate for carers to come forward and to say, yep, okay, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And this is where I would like to come in, that if people have questions and they're not so sure if fostering is for them, that they can contact me. And also to just understand what it involves, because, for example, you would always have contact visit with birth family, not personally, but it means that the child gets picked up and has contact visit continuously with family, so that, they are in contact and they can still have questions and meet the people that they are such a big part of for their culture, for their identity. So contact visits, even if you do adoptions in Australia, they are always open adoptions. And I know from my own personal experience after having adopted 2 children that having contact with birth family is absolutely vital, because these kids heal a lot better. They can put the pieces of the puzzle together. They can ask questions, anything that they have as questions. If I can't answer it, I say, okay, let's ask next time at the next meeting, or you know what, let's just write a quick SMS, or let's call the person from your birth family that could be able to answer that question. So I think it is a fantastic way to show the kids also that you're totally accepting of birth family, that there are, no hard feelings, no judgment. It is it is what it is for that family in terms of they've tried and it hasn't worked and it's not a safe environment, but it doesn't mean that kids cannot have contact and that they cannot stay in touch and have a bit of, reassurance that people are still there for them no matter what. Now, in my life through the constant moving, sure, there were hardships in terms of always leaving my friends as well and starting over in another school and another language and all of that. But it has really also made me very open-minded, and that's something you would also need as a foster carer, because first of all, you don't know culturally where your foster child will be coming from, and that you're open to that as well. Now, having 3 children from 3 different sets of parents with 3 different backgrounds, in terms of culture, it also means that we try our best to keep them connected to culture, to try that food, to travel to the countries, to get as much information from birth family on supporting them in any which way. So that would be a big part of what you would do as a foster carer as well. And also, of course, the key thing that we're trying to help these kids with is to have a safe home. And just by removing them from their environment, it doesn't mean that makes it a safe place only. They need to feel safe really inside. They need to feel heard. They need to feel supported, so that if they are struggling, because every behavior that these kids comes from somewhere, it's never from nothing. Bad attention is still better than none. And if kids, have not just the usual tantrums, but have, maybe emotional outbursts because they have never learned to regulate themselves. That's for me one of the key ones, because the role models that they had, if you're not happy with something, you swing a fist, or if you're unhappy, you start to scream. So anything that they have observed so far in regulating their emotions was maybe not as you would want it to be, because it is, not necessarily accepted in society. So you would like for these children to learn how to self-regulate, how to name their feelings, how to then work through their emotions and give them strategies on how to do this, a bit more constructively. And this is what has helped also my kids to teach these kids. So whenever they came, we had a kid come through the door that was F this, F that, bad ways, bad words. And my kids were like, well, why doesn't this one get into trouble? You would say something if we said it. And I said, well, then let's teach them how we say it here in our house. Help me, guide him, and let's work through it. Let's tell him how else we can say that we're not happy with something, or how we can express our feelings. And it doesn't have to be through these words. So my kids have learned a lot by actually observing kids' behaviors. Quite a few of them have actually done also work placements for school. They had to do work placements. They did it in childcare centers, and they were always amazed at how my kids could redirect these children's emotions, how they could interact with them, and how any age was fine for them to work with. So they learn life skills. They also see what maybe alcohol and drugs does to children, who then have to be weaned off the addiction from mom that they got during utero, when mom took drugs and alcohol during pregnancy. So they have learned a lot. They have learned so much by just observing the behaviors, by seeing these kids come with nothing but the clothes on their back. It has shown my kids what compassion means, what empathy means, because I always say, you're not born with empathy, you're not born with compassion. These are things that you observe, things that you learn. So by being role model, by saying, hey, we open our house, we take these kids in, and yes, okay, maybe they're hygienically not so clean. Let's show them how to get cleaner. Yep, okay, maybe the behavior is not great. All right, let's teach them how to behave nicer. And it's beautiful to see that when these kids, change and actually pick up on it and want to do better, then my kids can see, wow, we've made a difference. This child has learned so much, and wow, it's learned to eat with fork and knife. I mean, you see all kinds of things that these kids come with that, we've had kids that had never seen cooked food, that had only ever eaten French fries and burgers. And for our kids to introduce vegetables to them, or cooked pasta or rice, I mean, it was, real amazing moments when these kids then would eat a spoonful and would make a big fuss. And, after a while they would sit there with a big mouthful, not able to swallow yet, but they saw the excitement that we had when they actually did try something and put it in their mouth. So all of these things are why we continue doing what we're doing, that you see the little highlights, or, when children come and they don't necessarily want to be touched, or they don't want to get close. And then when you ask them to hold your hand because you're crossing the road, and then they don't let go. So then, you're breaking through, and you're actually getting to the kids from the inside out. And it's just beautiful to watch. Also, when they take pride in their appearance, when they are fine to change their clothes every day, where before, they wouldn't have any problems wearing the same clothes for 5 days. So you push them into another way of living in a gentle way, and you guide them, and it's just beautiful to see how you can make a difference. So why I'm doing this today is that I'm here because I would like to spread the word that pretty much in all countries we need foster carers. There are different types of foster care that you can offer. You can offer respite care, which means you just do some weekend here and there, or when people go on holiday and they can't take the child, or they go into hospital, or whatever it might be, that you have a begin date and an end date. Or it could be that these kids come into care, they stay with you, but you say, okay, we're not interested in permanent care or long-term care, but we'll help out until you find somebody else. So all of that helps, because when kids are removed, we need homes. So we need respite carers, we need short-term carers, we need long-term carers. And then, of course, you also have the emergency carers, which not every agency does, but for example, we do emergency care as well. So which means when the child is being removed, we get the phone call, okay, we've got this age group here now, are you able, can we come in an hour? And they bring the child literally that night, or that, that day. So we just would like to raise awareness to the fact that we need more carers, that there are many other ways of creating families that maybe people have not thought of. And I would like to just share that knowledge with you and hope that you're interested. And if you are, please contact me. I'm happy to offer a 30-minute chat for free just to see if fostering could be for you. If you want to get going, then I'm happy to guide you in the right direction. If you want more information, I also run workshops on just, even one-on-one workshops just to answer any questions you and your partner or anybody else might have, that I can answer anything before you then transfer to an agency who does the approval. I personally also run, here in Australia, I run the workshops that you need to participate in before you actually get authorized. And I also run open adoption seminars for another agency. So I know exactly what assessors are looking for. I know exactly what comes up in terms of topics to be authorized, and all the points on how you prepare your home, how you prepare your children, the extended family, what kind of questions the assessors will ask. If you have something in your past, or you had mental health issues and you're maybe a bit worried and you're not so sure if that would be a deterrent, then just call me, let me know, contact me via LinkedIn, via this book and all the details in it. Just find out more about it. I just don't want people to always think, oh, maybe. Just ask the questions and let's get going, because we definitely desperately need you. Thank you.